Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot. The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by Media Clip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers.
Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we're joined by Ann Carden, who's a business growth expert and CEO of the Expert in You marketing company. She's coming to us from Missouri today. Hi, Ann. How are you today?
Hey, Gary. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
So you've got a wide range of experiences. You've run 7 companies. Tell us about that first. Were you always in business or did you grow into it or what happened?
Yeah, my first business was when I was about 8 years old, I think. And I sold craft classes to the neighborhood kids and had craft classes in my basement. So that was my first business. That actually came out on a podcast one day. I had forgot about that. But no, I actually went into retail management. I was in retail management for about 13 years, working in really high-end department stores, running multi-million-dollar departments. Learned about business and marketing and sales. And I went to school for business management. So after that, I had kids and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and raise my kids. I didn't want them raised by daycare. So my husband and we were living in California at the time. I was working in retail, and we moved back to Missouri. And there wasn't a lot of opportunity. And I started my first business, and that was 35 years ago. So since then, I'm in my 6th and 7th, and I've sold the 5 previous businesses.
And just so the listeners know, what are some of the businesses where they're in the same industry or the same type of business? Were they spread across different categories, or what were those at?
No. So my first business, I was like, what can I do to make some money? There wasn't any opportunity. And the craft industry was exploding across the country at that time. And this was in the 90s. And I was creative. And so I thought, I'm going to make something. And I started making some craft things that didn't sell. And I said to the woman at the store, it was a little consignment store. And she said, yeah, you can come pick these things up. They're not selling. And I said, what's selling? She said, these rabbit dolls. Long story short, that turned into a global doll business, like a craft doll business.
Okay.
I was all over the world. I was in multiple stores across the country. That was before the internet.
I was going to say, you weren't selling online then, so you built a global business.
Print ads. Yes, I was in.
The old school way, right?
Yes, the old way. I was in international magazines, and there were a lot of craft stores all across the country. So I was in different states. I had space in different states that I rented, and I was shipping dolls every day. And that became global. I remember the first time I got a call from Iceland. A woman was collecting my dolls. They were all signed and numbered. I had a lot of employees. I had multiple moms coming in and out of my home that were helping me with different things. And that was a really successful business. I did it for 7 years. And then I started doing my designs for the pattern side of my business, where people could buy the patterns and they could make my dolls. Right. So that was a whole other revenue stream. And then when I sold, I actually sold my designs and I sold out to that pattern company. Nice. Started business in fitness, 2 health clubs. Well, one was a high-end women's training center. One was a huge health club. And then I had 2 weight loss centers, and those were 4 businesses. And now I have my coaching and consulting, and then I have my agency. So yeah, it's been quite a run.
So how do you square the circle with a creative person in business? Because a lot of times people struggle with that because they've got the creative energy of, and I think, that's a lot of our audience, photographers, printers, people like that, people who are maybe got into the business for creative reasons, but then you got to do the business side of it. How did you grow in that area?
I really just had to learn that skill set, to be honest. The thing that I try to get people to understand when I'm coaching them or working with them is that the creative side is where you can really expand and grow the business, but you do have to treat it like a business. And you have to think of it like a business. Otherwise, what you love is not going to be fun. I mean, you're going to probably burn out on it. So most people get into business because they want to make money, not just because they love what they do, but they want to make money. That's why they turn it into a business. But then so many people never go that direction. And it's because they're not excellent at business. Their ideas, I don't want to take the time to learn it. I was actually even that way. Like, I hate the business side. I love what I'm doing, but
exactly.
But eventually I had to really make that shift. Like, I'm not going to love this if I don't really do something with it.
Well, and not a lot of people love failure either.
Exactly. That's right.
I mean,
The freedom comes. I always say, get yourself to such a great place in your business that now you get to do what you love when you want to do it, but you don't have to do it all the time.
right.
That, to me, that's the beauty of a real business.
Because that's one of the things that, a friend of mine once said was, nothing kills the joy of photography faster than owning a photography business, right?
That's right. It's that way with everything. It's kind of like, when I was building my health clubs, I was training clients, I was coaching clients on weight loss, thousands of people, and I was teaching fitness classes. I was teaching for years. I would teach 5 and 6 classes a day. That's insane to people. And eventually I said, okay, this thing can't really grow if I'm in the middle of everything, right? It was hard to let go of that. That's one thing. It's just hard for people to let go of that. And you think, oh, nobody can do it like I can because I'm the face of this business. But the reality is that isn't true. And I learned that. And when I did, though, the thing that was so great about that is not only did I learn other skill sets that became fun as well, but now I got to actually mentor people up to also be doing great things, which was very rewarding, in itself. And I was able to still teach and train when I wanted to, but I didn't have to. And that was the difference. So I had a lot more freedom. I was able then to go to my kids' games, and I was able to be involved in their school activities and the things that were really, and my family, and really important to me. And I couldn't do that if I was in the midst of everything. Like, nothing's going to grow if you're it.
Yeah, because it's hard to scale people and like an owner, right? And that's really one of the things I think a lot of people in the industry, in photo industry, struggle with, is because maybe they're the son of the founder or the daughter of the founder who founded the camera store 40 years ago, and then they took it over, and now they've got to kind of put it in a position to pass on.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle because so much of it is in their head.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, Gary, that's kind of the old way of doing business. It's not the new way of doing business.
Okay.
Now we have the internet. Now you can create products. Now you can get products done. Now there's so many other ways now to make money, or you can just create invest in other businesses and bring in money other ways. I've learned that all along the way. And so my main thing always expanded into other opportunities and other things that were also making money. So then you're not so tied to, I don't mean to say have a whole bunch of businesses. That's not my point. You get your core business successful, and then you start looking for ways. I say grow your money trees. So most people think, okay, my business is a money tree. I can grow it however big I want, but I say grow your orchard, right? So now you grow another money tree and another money tree. And when you start thinking like that, now you're really thinking like someone in business. And you're not tied. If something happens over here, it's not going to matter.
Right.
It's like when the craft industry was starting to shift, I was doing patterns. I had already gone that route. I saw the shifts in the market. I was still out of business. I wasn't out of business because of all the imports and things coming in. Same thing with the health clubs. The weight loss centers came in because I saw shifts in gyms and in what was going on in gyms and the pricing and all of those kinds of things. And I knew that I still wanted to make an impact and work at a higher level with people. And that's where the whole weight loss thing kind of came in. So it was part of the core, like they fed each other, but it was a whole nother business, but it wasn't disconnected. And so to me, that's the best way to grow and scale if you do still love what you do, but there's other ways to make money. And that's what you could be looking at. So there's a lot of ways to grow.
So one of the things you kind of touched on there is, identifying trends, right? And, the internet's out there now, and maybe in the 1990s, there was a craft industry association or a newsletter or something you would have read. But, there's a lot of terrible information out there and misleading information, especially on the internet. I hate to be the first one to inform you, but not everything on the internet is truthful.
That's true, right?
So, when you have somebody who's maybe looking at that, let's say they built a successful camera store or whatever, they're looking for like going to where the puck is going to be, I think is, if I was to use a sports analogy, that's what you're talking about. Don't be lagging behind, but be where the puck is going to be. Yeah. What are some of the things you can look at to identify future growth opportunities?
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Marketing is a puzzle. You can either give into the confusion or learn to love the solve. On the Axiom's Real Talk About Marketing podcast, guests like Aaron Schaefer of GM share how to manage challenges.
Make sure that you're not fixed in terms of what you're thinking about. The team's going to change, and the way teams operate are going to change. COVID was a great example of that. The industry is going to change. Are cookies going away or not? That was another great example of that. And so how do you continue to evolve as the space evolves?
Guests from HP, The Trade Desk, and Databricks share thoughts on today's marketing landscape. Find Real Talk About Marketing on YouTube, Axiom.com, or wherever you hear podcasts.
Yeah, you always really do have to stay ahead of everybody else. That's one thing I always did, was I was always looking for what's the new thing. I think about in my health clubs, what's the new thing coming out now? And I stayed on top of those things. Now you can do it so easy. Now you can easily research. You can see who's leading the industry, who's running the conferences, who's doing the big stuff, and follow them. And you'll be able to kind of see where the trends are going, because there are those people that they live that. But if you can stay with those people and you can figure out, who do I follow? Who's got the inside track? Who knows things? And you can stay really in tune. You can always be ahead. You can always be steps ahead of your competition. And you can always get to market with things that other people they're just lagging so far behind. I did that in all of my businesses. I was always the first to get everything. My competition used to knock me off. They would knock off my ads. They would knock off my ideas. And I used to get so mad. But looking back now, I say, hey, they were chasing me. I wasn't chasing them.
Right.
I was 6 steps ahead. And that's what you have to do if you're going to stay relevant.
But isn't there a danger, though, to kind of just being too trendy and just following trends that maybe they're more of a fad than a trend, right? And that's really a problem for some people who, maybe can't afford to do too many, maybe not radical shifts, but, let's say, for example, a certain type of thing gets hot on Instagram or TikTok, and you decide you want to follow that trend, but then it peters out in 2 weeks and you're kind of out of luck.
Well, I mean, what kind of trends are we talking about? That's what
I guess that's where I'm getting to is, how do you identify a trend, right? A growth trend.
I think you have to look at, is this something that's viable? So when I say a trend, it has to have a little bit of juice behind it. So for example, right now, podcasting, we're on here, right? It's exploding. I mean, I've had a podcast for 4 years. And at the time I had my podcast, it was not, there were a lot out there, but it was just starting to kind of get right. Now I'm hundreds of episodes in, and other people are just getting started. Now we help people launch one. And so my next thing came because I saw that, hey, this isn't going away. This is big. Okay, how can I now help people launch their podcast if they want to launch their show?
Sure.
I picked up on the trend, but in a different way.
Right.
So sometimes you can test the waters, but I think you have to look at, is this a viable? I mean, some of it's gut instinct, to be quite honest.
Yeah, well, that's it.
It is. It's like, do I really see a future in this? But if you really sit down and look at things, you can usually tell this is going to take off. This is going to do well. Can I tell a quick story?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Please. Tell me a story.
Yeah. So I remember back when I had my health club and spinning came onto the scene. Everybody knows spinning now, right?
Right.
But it was new, and I was following what was going on in the fitness industry. And so this is a way for people to think too, to get very innovative. And spin bikes at that time, I don't know, they were going to be 25 or 30 grand to put into my health club. And I didn't really know if people were even going to love it. And I didn't want to just go buy the bikes and stick them into my gym and, okay, here you go, because people don't appreciate stuff like that, right? It's just 30 grand out of my profits. So what I did is I got innovative and I put together a game plan, and I said, I'm going to have these bikes paid for before I buy them, or I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And so I put packages together, and I went out into my club and I marketed and sold those. And I said, this is what it is, and this is what we're going to do. And if you want to be in on this, this is how many spots we have per class. And this is how many. And so people bought the packages. And I said, if I don't get the interest, I'm not going to buy the bikes, and I'll refund your money.
Right.
And bought into that. And before I put in the spin bikes, I had the bikes paid for. So you can do things like that. And it's a great way to test the market too. So market research in some way, shape, or form. I teach people that now. I'm like, don't go out and build a course or don't go out and build a product. Go sell the product and then build the product. And that will tell you when people have to pay when they have to pay with money instead of their words, you will find out if there's really a market for something.
Right.
So
You know, it's interesting you say that because that is sort of the way GoFundMe works, right? I mean, it's sort of like, you know, people want to, I've seen several photo manufacturers come out with products and they launch them on GoFundMe. I mean, even companies as big as Canon, right? You know, because they just want to see, is this a real product or is this just something that people in our R&D department just dreamt up? Will people actually buy it, right?
Absolutely. You know, I'm getting ready to do another book. I have a speaking engagement coming up. It's around a topic I haven't released a book around, like specifically for that topic. And I said, okay, I need to write a book for this. And I thought, well, if I don't get the book done in time, I'm going to pre-sell the book at the speaking engagement. People can buy the book and then I'll ship it to them when the book is done. And so you can do things like that. You can, now that's just a matter of, I'm not sure I'm going to have the book done. That's not a money thing.
That's a you thing.
It's a you thing. But you can, because I'm real close to having it done, but I don't know if it will get done in time. So you can do things like that as well. But it keeps me from having to go out and buy, hundreds of books.
Right.
Just sell it with a nice marketing card and my speaking engagement, and people can buy it. And then from there, I'll be able to, put it on Amazon and get it to bestseller or whatever. So a lot of people don't think like this. And I try to get people to sort of think outside the box and innovate with what they're doing. I've done a lot of bootstrapping, so I got really good at it, but yeah.
Well, it sounds like it. And that's actually kind of exciting because I think that's one of the things that you like to see with people is, the thing about bootstrapping is you tend to make more informed decisions because you have to. You're spending your own money, not the bank's money.
Exactly. And, it's really interesting too. I actually, and I don't want this to sound bad because I believe that there are situations where you need investors. There are certain businesses or certain investors. But one of the things that really bugs me, and I think just because I didn't come from this and I didn't do it this way, one of the things that really bugs me is when I see people wanting to get into business and the first thing they go out and do is try to find investors. I'm like, you know what? You need to put a little skin in the game. I mean, because I've watched, so my son is in IT and he's worked for companies where they were funded by investors. And when he would tell me the millions of dollars they would lose a month, that they would just, there's no care, there's no concern. You don't learn how to do anything.
Right.
People are just throwing money at you. And I just feel like that's why a lot of businesses fail because people don't really learn the skill sets they need. So maybe I'm old school in that way, but I just don't think it benefits people. Now, again, I think there are some businesses you have investors for, but even if you watch Shark Tank, I love Shark Tank. You probably watch it too. And, you'll even see them say, well, how much have you gone out and tried to market this business? How much have you done? What have you done so far? And if they haven't done anything, they're like, yeah, we're not investing in you because you're not putting in the time or the work. So I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, because that's one of the things, again, if you watch the Shark Tank, one of the things, they talk about, they talk about the financials, but they also want to know the person's story who came up with the idea. And again, what their skin in the game was, right? Were they an early investor? Were they just, or like you said, are they just one of many people working on this thing and they're not as interested in it? Or as they say, I'm out.
Right. Here's the thing about business. It's not just about the business. It's about the person behind the business. Because you can have the best product in the world, but if the person trying to build the business isn't going to put in the work and they're just not committed, they're just not willing to go all in on it, that business is going to fail. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter even the best product. And when I look back to whether it was in fitness or whether it was coaching people in their businesses, the only people that failed ever, because they had guidance, they had support from me, and I knew how to help them and I knew what to show them to do. The only people that ever failed or didn't have results were people that just wouldn't do it. That's it. The people that did it, the people that would do the thing and be committed to their success would have success. And I used to get frustrated with some of the coaching clients I would work with, because when I first started coaching, I didn't really know to look to not work with these people.
Right.
And I got frustrated. I actually almost quit my coaching, because a lot of the clients I was working with, it's like I wanted their success more than them. Yeah, that doesn't work. That just doesn't. And I said, this is not a business I'm loving.
Yeah.
I had to figure out, you just need different clients.
Yeah. Well, you got to always be able to fire bad customers, right?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit, because you kind of touched on something which I think is the theme of one of your books, which is like the expert in you, right? Can you talk a little bit about that concept of, where you're the product essentially?
Yeah. So expert in you was really that whole idea, and that model came out of, I was part of a coaching organization, and they were trying to teach people how to be business coaches. And a lot of these business coaches were failing. And I was not doing well in their system, in their program. And I took a step back and I said, what's wrong? I'm bringing in clients. I'm not, like I said, I wanted their success more than they did. I wasn't getting paid what I felt like. I wasn't even getting to use my expertise and my experience with them.
Right.
And I was very frustrated, and I took a step back and I said, what's wrong here? And I realized two things. I wasn't working in my expertise, in the thing that I was really good at, and those were not the clients I was working with. And the second thing is, I wasn't working in a premium model, which is what I always did in all of my other businesses. I knew that premium was where the real profitability was. So I redesigned my business, and then I implemented it, and it blew up. And then I started helping other people do that, and it expanded. And so then this company kind of kept promoting me and putting me on their calls and saying, hey, look what Ann's doing. And I realized I was starting to build their business. So I had these coaches coming to me saying, okay, show me what to do. How do you do this? And I would say to them, what was your background? And they would say, oh, I was a music teacher. And you're trying to be a business coach? Like, I'm not getting that. Why don't we take what you're really great at? Let's take all the things you're really great at, and let's build a business around that. And that's how the whole philosophy around that started. I seen your brilliance, your expertise, your skills, your experience.
That takes a lot of, I want to say gumption or self-awareness, though. I mean, because there are people who have natural tendencies, right? They're good at certain things, they're not good at other things, or whatever. And some people have blind spots, right? So who should they be listening to?
People like me that know what they're doing. Okay, let's just be real. It's really funny you say that, Gary, because it's also one of the things I do with people. They think they know what their thing is, and they'll start down that path. But what they're really incredible at doing, they don't even see it, because they're too good. And so one of the things I do is help people really level up their business. And so if they're already like coaching or consulting, I've taken people from making $1,500 a client to $50,000 a client. I helped an agency owner who was making like $30,000 get a $400,000 client, because she couldn't even see how to package her brilliance, her real true brilliance.
Right.
Most people can't see that. But here's the thing I'll tell you, everyone has amazing opportunity inside of them, but they might need to work with someone to figure out what that looks like. Like, I help people strategize, $1 million business around a book. So you can do a book around your expertise and then build a whole business around that. So there's opportunity. If you've done anything at all in life, you've got opportunity.
Who is the typical customer for your agency? Because he says it's a media agency and marketing. What does that mean in the context of your business?
Yeah, so I have kind of two sides to my business. So I help business growth. And the agency actually came out of that core expert in you business, where I was helping people elevate their brand, get, speak, launch their podcast, write their best-selling book. We were doing all those things with them, and all of their high level, what I call high impact marketing strategies. And so I was sending them other places to go get those things done. And I thought, and so this is another way to innovate, right? Well, why would I do this? Like, this doesn't make sense. Let me just build my own team. And now they can buy those services from me. And I've already vetted these people. I already know these people are great.
They've already been pre-selected.
Exactly. I became like this one-stop shop and this resource for my clients. So now I'm not just helping them build their business, but I have all the different things they need, and I can help them with all the different pieces. And so now the agency, we're getting ready to actually expand that and really build it out, because it's kind of been hidden within my coaching business. Now we're actually expanding that, because that will be an exit strategy for me. I will sell that at some point, but I've already got the team. So we'll do their best-selling book. We'll write it for them in 90 days. We can get it written. We will help them launch their podcast. We do strategy with them. So tell me what you want to accomplish in your business. I'll help you strategize that whole game plan. What do you want to make? How do you want to work? Here are my ideas. This is what it looks like. And we can help them. So it's more than just a marketing and media agency. I don't know if you can see it. I have my magazine back here that I launched because I wanted to be able to give my clients an opportunity to be in the media for credibility. So I launched that really high-end magazine, and I can feature my clients in there in a beautiful featured section. So those are all products and things and I also monetize my magazine. So those are things that have expanded off of my core business, but now it's become a whole nother business.
When does someone realize they need a coach? I guess the question, because I think some people either think it's too late or they don't need one, right? So
well, if they think they don't need one, they're not ready for one.
Okay, that's a good response.
I built 7 businesses. I've had incredible success. I've sold 5 businesses, and I still hire coaches and mentors. Why? Because there are always people that know things I don't know, and we only know so much.
Right.
That's it. You will only go as far as what you know. You cannot see beyond that. You can't go beyond that. And the other thing is, I'm older and I don't have years to keep bootstrapping. I realized a long time ago, actually, the speed comes when you find the people that have already done it and they know what they're doing, and they can just give you the plan. Like they can just help you and help you do it. So in my opinion, if people don't have a coach, they have no clue what they're missing. No clue at all. It will change their world.
Speaking of which, where can people go to get more information about the various things that you do?
Yeah. So you can go to annlcarden.com. That's my website. And my books are on there. You can get some free resources, but you can find me all over social. I have a huge YouTube channel, my Facebook groups. I mean, all those things are on my site. So
they just had to find Ann Carden, and there you are.
Yeah, you can Google me, but my website does have my middle initial, so it's annlcarden.com.
Okay. Great. And well, listen, it's been great talking to you and learning a lot about business coaching, and I've learned a couple of things, so I appreciate that, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.